Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you haven't already, please introduce yourself in the chat. Send your name, your location, one reason that you're excited to be here today. We are really excited and grateful that you all are here today for this critical webinar. My name is Violette. I've been working closely with IWitnessSilwan through the Samud mural in Oakland for the past 3 years, have really grounded my organizing in the power of cultural resistance, seeing its impact firsthand. So we're excited to share the impact and the work of cultural resistance that's happening in Silwan and how you can get involved in this webinar today. And especially right now, as ethnic cleansing escalates across Palestine in full force, as the genocide continues in Gaza, annexation and attacks expand in the West Bank, and repression against students like Mahmoud Khalil and all those who speak up for Palestine intensifies here in Turtle Island, we are being called to rise. This moment demands more from all of us. It demands us to deepen our solidarity, to sharpen our strategies, to amplify our political impact. And one powerful way that we can do that is through cultural resistance. And cultural resistance is not just survival, it is defiance in the face of annihilation. During a genocide, when people are targeted for physical and historical erasure, the Palestinian people are being targeted for this erasure. Culture becomes a shield and a weapon. The stories we tell, the art we create, the traditions we preserve, they assert existence when the oppressor denies it, forge unity and fragmentation, turn memory into a blueprint for the future. From oral histories to murals, from poetry to songs of protest, cultural resistance refuses the logic of elimination. It's how Palestinians say you cannot kill us all because we live in what we make, and what we make outlives you. We will outlive you. In the darkest hours, culture is the light that guides the way home. So today you will learn how cultural resistance is not just a tool, but a weapon in the fight against Israel's ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in occupied Jerusalem. We will talk about the current situation in Silwan, the political context in Jerusalem and Palestine as a whole, the role of art in resistance, and Eyewitness Silwan's project, and how to get involved. It's not just a webinar, it's a call to action. So we've brought together these powerful voices today who will expose the reality on the ground and ignite your solidarity and equip you to take direct and meaningful steps to confront this genocide and this erasure. So pay attention, stay engaged, listen to the words, the stories, the actions of the people and the speakers that we have today. And hopefully you will take something from this and do something with this. Our first speaker that we have, who's going to open us up and ground us in a poem, is Jenny Lim. Jenny Lim is the ninth San Francisco Poet Laureate, a recipient of two Lifetime Achievement Awards from Penn Oakland and the city of Berkeley, and a former San Francisco Poet Laureate. She is the author of five poetry collections, An Island, Poetry and History of Chinese Immigrants on Angel Island. Winner of the American Book Award, Lim's play Paper Angels was the first Asian American play aired on PBS's American Playhouse in 1985 and has performed throughout the US, Canada, and China. She has worked with past jazz legends Max Roach, Herbie Lewis, and local musicians John Jang, John Santos, Destiny Muhammad, Marcus Shelby, and Francis Wong. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jenny.
It's a great honor to be here. Thank you to Susan Green for inviting me. I have been heartbroken like most of you. But where there is defeat, there is despair. And where there is hope, there's always resistance and possibility. From here to Gaza, death never saw itself becoming, only the eerie silence just before heaven blew up and the olive trees burst into flames. At that interminable moment, all the exits from Gaza were sealed, and the key to your home became a souvenir in the mausoleum of your dreams. When the roof of darkness caved in, the Sea of Galilee turned red, but there was nowhere to go. Time was a thief your memory froze. Little did you know the terror in your heart had been there all along from birth, like a little mouse trapped in a cage. Little did we Americans know that the distance from here to Gaza was an illusion, and that the border between Palestine and Israel did not truly exist ever, except in fiction. History is occupied territory, and whoever lives to tell it is the victor. There are no more lions, only hunters with power over life and death. What is left? Only the stories of the flower of Jericho, only the place where Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. You've nothing but stones to fill the empty Temple Mount. Your hunger echoes in its desecrated ground and through the tunnels of insurgent prayers, never to be satisfied until the river returns to the sea and the right of return is reality. You will know that moment when life returns with the infallibility of spring, because your spirit will soar on the chords of the wind and life will know itself becoming. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jenny. History is an occupied territory. And what is left of, is our stories. We know that history is an occupied territory, but history is not just something that is done to us. History is something that we shape through our actions. And this is something that our next speakers from Silwan, Palestine teach us. That through their actions, through their community with deep historical roots and unwavering resilience, they have fought for decades, for generations to remain on their land. Silwan, located just outside the walls of Jerusalem's old city, is home to generations of Palestinian families who are preserving their heritage and fighting ongoing displacement, home demolitions, and systemic oppression and occupation. And so up next, we have Zuhair al-Rajabi, who was born and raised in Silwan, occupied Jerusalem. Mr. Rajabi is the head of the Batan al-Hawa Committee, directs the Meda Creative Center Batan al-Hawa branch, and is co-director of Eyewitness Silwan. He has been arrested several times by the police after settler group Atarat Kohanim ordered his family's eviction. The Rajabi family continues to fight eviction orders and to help his community to resist. Susan Green will also be joining Zuhair, who is an artist and clinical psychologist and the founding director of Art Forces and co-director of Eyewitness Silwan. Janan, artist and materials manager for Eyewitness Silwan, is a young Jerusalemite who has lived in Silwan for over 18 years. She has graduated with a diploma degree in interior design and a bachelor degree from Dar el Kalima Art University. Zuhair, Susan, and Janan will share with us about the current situation in Silwan and an overview of the Eyewitness Silwan project. And I want to just remind people who are here who want to listen to the webinar in Arabic to please click the Portuguese section at the bottom of your screen so that you can listen to this in Arabic if you need to. Thank you so much, and I'll pass it over to Zuhair.
مرحبا. أنا طبعا بعرفش أتصور على ما فهمت لأنه هلأ دوري في الحديث.
صحيح.
نعم. أنا زهير رجبي، طبعا مسؤول لجنة حي بطن الهوى بسلوان، وأنا سعيد بهذا اللقاء وبتمنى لأنه هذا اللقاء يكون في له لقاءات متتالية بعد هذا اللقاء.
So first I'd like to introduce himself. His name is Zuhair Razabi. When he was introduced, he is the head of the committee of Batn al-Hawa. Happy to be here, happy to join this webinar, and hopefully we'll have more webinars to come about the situation in Palestine.
يعني ممكن أنا أكون أحد الأشخاص الأهمية بالنسبة حتى لعتيرة كهنيم في سلوان، لأني أنا متحدث بأسم 87 عائلة، ما يقارب 700 شخص في هذا الحي، بأوامر إخلاءات من هذا الحي وطردهم من بيوتهم.
He's also the person that Atayat Kohanim contacts for information about cases about around 87 families here that are facing evictions orders from the Israeli government in Batn al-Hawa. So we're talking about
يعني
around 700 people.
يعني أنا من تقريبا إحنا من 2015 بدأ أوامر الإخلاءات وطرد بمطالبة طرد العائلات وتوطين مكانهم عائلات من المستوطنين. تم مع الأسف من بداية 17 اللي هي الحرب اللي على غزة طرد ما يقارب 7 عائلات. صحيح يمكن كانت هذه المربح لهم هي الحرب والوضع الاستثنائي وقضايا اللي هي الإخلاءات اللي صارت.
Of course, eviction orders have been issued since 2015. However, since October 7th, of course, this situation was taken advantage of, and we're talking about 10 families that were actually evicted since the start of this genocide.
يعني صحيح أنا إذا بدي أحكي ممكن إنه إحنا في المقدسيين وأبناء القدس، إن كان على صعيد سلوان، الشيخ جراح، وادي الجوز، جبل الزيتون، وادي الربابة، مناطق تانية في داخل القدس البلدة القديمة، يمكن نتعرض لهجمة شرسة. ممكن إنه مزبوط ما فيش فيها قتل أو أعداد القتلى والشهداء بسيطة بس، ولكن نتعرض لهجمة شرسة مثل غزة وأكثر، من خلال الحكومة الإسرائيلية، من خلال الاستيطان اللي عمالهم بيحاولوا يستغلوا الظروف الصعبة اللي عمالنا بنمر فيها من أجل يمرروا قرارات إخلاءات وطرد واستيلاء على بيوت وأراضي. مروان تفضلي.
Sorry, كنت حاطة mute. So Jerusalemites here are facing their own challenges and issues with the Israeli governments. Of course, it's not the same as Gaza, so we don't hear a lot of loss of life or killing. However, Jerusalemites in different areas like Silwan, Mount of Olives, Sheikh Jarrah, and all over Jerusalem are facing eviction orders. They're facing a lot of challenges from the Israeli government. And like he was saying before, the situation was taken advantage of since October 7th. A lot of eviction orders were stalled before, or they were appealed during the war. They were passed, and the families were actually evicted.
يعني اللي بيصير لأنه من بعد 17 اعتداء سافر على كل مواطن مقدسي، اعتداء بكل الطرق وكل السبل، إن كانت طريقة عنف، إن كانت طريقة غلط، إن كانت طريقة تهديد، إن كانت طريقة، كل الطرق بيحاولوا والأساليب اللي بيستعملوها ضدنا في القدس بطرق ملتوية. حتى بالمحاكم اليوم، بالمحاكم كنا نستطيع أنه ندافع عن بيوتنا وأراضينا، كنا نستطيع أن يكون لنا وقفات تضامنية، كنا نستطيع أنه يشاركونا من جميع المناطق، إن كان أجانب، إن كان أوروبيين، إن كان يساريين إسرائيليين معنا في الوقفات. ولكن مع الأسف اليوم لا نستطيع حتى بأن نقف وقفة ونجتمع 3 أشخاص من أجل اللي إنه نقول إحنا نرفض الطرد والتهجير.
So The situation is a little bit different in Jerusalem. So after October 7th, there's a lot of violations that have been happening. We're talking about violence, threats. Even in courts, when there was a court date for one of the houses for evictions, people were able to kind of show solidarity and support in different ways, like demonstrations. Um, so even now, these kind of things are not allowed. Any gathering of more than 3 people does get attacked. So there's a lot of less support from international community or different organizations that used to support Zuhair when he would go and defend these cases. Unfortunately, now this kind of thing, because of the threats, because people can get detained for any reason, people are more afraid and there's less support in that sense.
يعني مع الأسف بشهر واحد تم أوامر إخلاء ل5 عائلات تتكون من حوالي 250 شخص. بالمحكمة الصلح أصدر قرار ضدهم بالإخلاء من بيوتهم. تم فرض غرامة مالية على كل عائلة 50,000 شيكل. من أجل أن نتقدم للاستئناف المحاكم المركزية فرض علينا أن نضع في خزينة الدولة لكل عائلة 20,000 شيكل من أجل تجميد أو الذهاب للمحكمة المركزية من أجل أن نجمد قرار الإخلاء الذي صدر بحق هذه العائلات بالمحكمة الصلح. وطبعا أنا وإخواني من ضمن هؤلاء العائلات اللي تم قرار الإخلاء.
So in January of this year, 2025, 5 families were also received eviction orders, and that includes 250 people. Zuhair's family and his brothers is part of these 5 families. So in court, usually when the court does this kind of thing, they appeal to the central court. In this case, first of all, they were fined 50,000 shekels each family. And if they want to go to the central court, they were asked to put in 20,000 shekels just to be able to get their appeal to the central court.
يعني أيضا ما نتفاجأ به أنه يعني تأتي قوات الاحتلال وشرطة الاحتلال الإسرائيلية اللي هي المفروض أن تكون أن تدافع عن أي مواطن أو أي مظلوم، تأتي إلينا بالتهديدات والوعيدات بمناسبة الأعياد اليهودية اللي هي تبدأ من اليوم حتى أسبوع، بأن علينا أن نمسك أولادنا، أن لا نتركهم بخارج البيوت، وأن كل من يحاول أن يزعزع أمن الأطفال والمستوطنين الموجودين في هذا الحي سوف يعاقب وسوف يعتقل وسوف يتم الاعتداء عليه هو وعائلته.
To top it all off, families in Batn al-Hawa were actually threatened by the Israeli forces and Israeli police that came to their houses to let them know that during the Jewish holidays that are happening for a week, I think it started yesterday or today, to keep their kids at home. So the kids are not allowed to play in the street for the safety of the settlers' kids that live around them.
مرام لا أعلم قديش بقي لي من الوقت للتحدث، ولكن يوجد شيء أود أن أحكيه في النهاية في الشيء الأخير.
أوكي تفضل.
قديش عندي وقت ممكن بس أعرف تقريبا؟
How long does he have? He's just asking. He'd like to add one last thing.
قديش؟
زهير تفضل.
أوكي. يعني إحنا اليوم مع الأسف يعني القضاء بيحاولوا يضغطوا علينا بكل الطرق والسبل. القضاء بيحاولوا لأنه يمرروا قرارات ضدنا وضد العائلات ويستغلوا الوضع والظرف اللي احنا يعني فيه اللي هو حالة الطوارئ. اليوم مع الأسف القاضي لا يريد أن يسمع بأي نوع من اللي إنه يحق لك كأنت مواطن أن تعترض. اليوم القاضي بقول لك أنا ما بديش أسمع ولا أي تجميد لقراراتك، وأنا راح أنفذ القرار، وأنت كمواطن عليك أن تنفذه لهذا القرار غصب عنك، رضيت أو لم ترضى.
Lastly, unfortunately, of course, since Zuhair goes to the court dates to all these families because he is with the representative, of course, with the lawyers and everything. So he can see the difference between how the judges used to deal with these kind of eviction orders before and now, past October 7th. So he's saying that the judges are pressuring the families due to also taking advantage of the emergency status that Israel is still under until this day. They are refusing to freeze these eviction orders and wait for the appeals and escalate to central courts and all the procedures that they used to go through before in order to try to preserve their homes and stay in their neighborhood. Unfortunately, the way the judges are dealing with this right now is very different, refusing to freeze any orders and just pressuring the families to accept and evict the homes that they've been living in.
وأخيرا مرام، يعني أنا أود أن أتحدث في آخر شيء. يعني إحنا منذ سنوات وإحنا نعمل على مشروع الرسومات وعلى العيون اللي اشتغلنا عليهم سنين بتعب وكد مع الأطفال ومع كل من شاركنا وكان من له دور من أجل إنه نوصل رسالتنا. اليوم نتفاجأ بأنه قوات الاحتلال تدعي لأنه بعض الرسومات هي برغم أنها صار لها سنين موجودة على الجدار وعلى الجداريات، لأنها هذه صور محرضة، هاي صور يجب محها. حاولوا مرارا محو بعض الصور والرسومات، وإحنا قمنا بدورنا بإعادة تصليح وتنظيف هذه الرسومات. اليوم بيحاولوا لأنه يوجدوا شيء غصب عنا واقع ينفذوه ضد حي بطن الهواء وحي القدس بشكل عام. وشكرا لكم وللمستمعين.
يعطيك
So
العافية. Oh, go ahead.
to end, Zuhair is of course part of the IWitnessSilwan project as one of the management that makes all of this project possible. So for years, he has been part of working on these murals in Batn al Hawa and working with the kids and trying to create this beautiful environment. And even these murals, they were not safe from Israeli forces, of course. Some of these images were said to be that they're enticing, anti-Semitic even. Some of them they try to erase or kind of paint white over them, and the children from Batn al Hawa, after the Israeli forces were gone, they rushed to clean the white paint off of these paintings. So even the murals are not safe. And he would like to thank everyone for being here and thank you for the time.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Green, and I'm going to be talking for a minute about what IWitnessSilwan is. It's a community-based and international public art project rooted in Silwan, occupied Jerusalem. It's involved hundreds of local artists and community members of every age. Why is the host act? Should I start my video? I just got a notice to start my video. Yes? Okay. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, and it is involved of every age, joined by artists and activists from around the world. Um, I'm going to turn this section over now to Maram Rajabi, who's been working with the project for about 5 years. She's an integral part of making things happen on the ground. Maram?
Yes, so since 2015, we have painted over 75 murals on Palestinian homes targeted for forced displacement and demolition by the Israeli government and settlers. This project is our cultural resistance to the Silwan community's imminent and ongoing expulsion. Since the murals can be seen from miles away on the side hill, including from Israeli tourist sites that contribute to the ethnic cleansing of Silwan, they guide people to the Silwan neighborhood and invite them to bear witness and join Palestinian residents' struggle. I actually did not, I am from Jerusalem, but I never actually went to Silwan, and I saw the murals before starting the project. And I've heard it from so many people before that every time I talk to anybody I know about the project, they say, oh, these are the eyes. This is how we found out where Silwan is. So it kind of became like a landmark for the neighborhood. So since the murals can be seen, the murals, sorry, also give Silwan residents joy, amidst pain and fear, and assert their ownership over their homes and collective agency over their future. We turn walls into voices and streets into stories that passersby, whether Palestinian community members, international visitors, or armed Israeli soldiers and settlers, must reckon with. The most publicly visible murals in Silwan depict 23 pairs of eyes of local and international leaders, martyrs, activists, workers, and more, all of whom keep watch over Silwan residents as they resist the daily violence and Israeli occupation and ethnic cleansing. People whose eyes are on the walls of Silwan include martyrs from Silwan and across all of Palestine, Silwan community members, Ghassan Kanafani, George Floyd, Che Guevara, Baby Boom, Malcolm X, Rachel Corrie, and the eyes of the blind man from the Bible. And other imagery of Silwan murals include Palestinian liberation symbols like poppies, birds, people holding up the victory signs. We also have portraits of neighborhood children and elders. Al-Aqsa Mosque, of course. Portraits and quotes of significant Palestinian figures such as Mahmoud Darwish, Nizar Banat, Shireen Abu Akleh, and more. Artists who have contributed to the murals in Silwan include hundreds of Silwan community members, because we always try to engage the community. And of course, IWitnessSilwan core team, artists Sliman Mansour, Ayman Al-Husari, Emroy Douglas, Chris Ghazale, John Halaka, I want to say this right, Cheche Carpio, or Cici, Jose Rojas, Susan Green, and Denny Sternstein. So the Eyewitness Silwan project uses the murals to build community in Silwan and educate and mobilize people around the world against forced displacement in Jerusalem. We conduct bilingual tours that share Silwan's real history and provide an alternative to the Israeli settler tourist industry. We also run community-based youth programs, create social media content, film videos and documentaries, sell merchandise in our online shop to support the project, and more. The project is co-directed by Zuhair Rajabi, community leader and director of the Mada Creative Center in Silwan, Susan Green, director of the US-based organization Art Forces. There's a Jerusalem and Ramallah-based core team and a US-based team that is working to expand the project's political impact in the US and internationally. In the coming months in Belfast, Ireland, longtime Palestine Solidarity muralist Marty Lyons and Danny Devaney will be painting a sister mural inspired by the murals in Silwan. This list will only grow as Eyewitness Silwan brings its murals and artworks inspired by or in dialogue with them to the rest of the world. Everyone who engages with this project is part of our cultural resistance to Israeli ethnic cleansing in Silwan. Eyewitness Silwan is urgently working to expand its political impact across borders by engaging more international artists, organizers, students, workers, and people of conscience. We invite you to join Palestinians' resistance to Israeli ethnic cleansing and connect the fight for justice in Palestine to global movements against settler colonialism, forced displacement, and state violence. Our goal is to create a powerful cultural movement based on the murals in Silwan that compels people to confront Israeli ethnic cleansing across Palestine and helps them understand the forces behind it, as well as pressure points where we might leverage our collective power. We want to instill curiosity about, conviction in, and connection to Palestinians' freedom struggle. We want to drive the world to look Palestinians in the eyes, to use writer Hamad al-Kurd's phrase. And next, you will hear more from an Eyewitness Silwan core team member and Muhammad. Later in this webinar, you will hear more about the Look Palestinians in the Eyes campaign and how you can get involved through direct actions, art-based interventions in public spaces, mural projects, social media, and more.
Thank you so much, Maram and Zuhair, for sharing. Janan, I'll pass it to you.
هلو مرحبا جميعا. شكرا لانضمامكم معنا اليوم. أنا جنان مسودة من سكان سلوان، انضميت لمشروع أنا شاهد على سلوان من 6 سنين. مشروعنا هو مش مجرد ألوان بتنحط على الحيط ولا رسومات، مشروعنا فيه له رسالة ورسالته أقوى من إنه مجرد ألوان. إحنا سلطنا الضوء أكتر على سلوان. كانوا زمان ما حدا يعرف عن سلوان وإيش بصير بسلوان وبالبيوت اللي هناك. من خلال الرسومات وصلنا رسالتنا للعالم، وصار الكل يشوف العيون ويحكي ليش بترتسم بهذا الشكل الكبير العيون، شو الهدف منها. فإحنا جذبنا الناس إنه يقرأوا أكتر عن سلوان، يتابعوا أخبار سلوان، يشوف إيش بصير بسلوان. والمشروع أثر بشكل كبير على أهل سلوان، يعني صاروا حاسين إنه في حدا جنبهم من العالم الخارجي، عارف عنهم، عن قضيتهم، عن المشاكل اللي كانت تصير بسلوان بشكل يومي. في غير الهدم البيوت والتهجير، كان اعتقال الأطفال، مناوشات بين الجيش والأطفال يوميا بسلوان، فهذه الأخبار ما كانت تطلع على القنوات الإخبارية بشكل كبير. من خلال مشروعنا صاروا الناس تعرف عن هاي الأخبار. كمان من خلال مشروعنا صرنا نرسم جداريات للأطفال، لأنه نفسية الأطفال ببطن الهواء مختلفة عن نفسية الأطفال بأي مكان تاني. لأنه بطن الهواء هناك في كتير مستوطنين، المستوطنين بيكون معهم كل واحد حارس. هذا الحارس بيكون على جنبه سلاح، فهذا بيكون بنفسية الأطفال كتير الإشي صعب، بكفي الخوف اللي كنا نشوفه بعيونهم. فصرنا نعمل ورشات رسم للأطفال، يرسموا رسومات يعبروا عن إيش بدور بداخلهم، ومن خلال هاي الرسومات نجمعهم ونعمل جدارية كاملة ونخلي الأطفال يشاركوا معنا بهاي الرسومات. وأولها الناس كانت خايفة من مشروع الرسم، مش كتير متقبلته. شوي شوي لما شافت إقبال العالم الخارجي من برا، وصاروا يجوا على بطن الهوا ويسمعوا قصص الناس، صارت هي تنادينا إنه تعالوا ارسموا لنا على هالحيطة، تعالوا ارسموا على هالحيطة. ف يعني إحنا عملنا إنجاز من خلال الرسم. يعني عملنا فن مقاوم بسلوان. صار بديش أحكي الكل، بس أغلب العالم عارف إيش يعني السلوان. كانت قضية الشيخ جراح شوي متصدر الإعلام أكتر، وقضية سلوان مهمشة. فمن خلال مشروع الرسم، لا صاروا الناس كمان تعرف عن سلوان. وبالنسبة صاروا الناس يطلبوا جولات لسلوان. احنا حاليا بنعمل جولات في سلوان لنعرفهم أكثر عن عن سلوان، عن حي بطن الهواء خصيصا. آه، فيعني هذا إنجاز كبير. بس من وقت 7 أكتوبر لهلأ ولا رسمة ارتسمت إلا عيون الأعمى، وبسبب سياسة الاحتلال اللي هي محو الرسومات، التضييق على سكان الحي، والتضييق يعني علينا كأشخاص. شكرا لكم.
All right. So we just heard from Jinan. Jinan is a resident of Silwan. She's been there all her life. She has been with the project for the past 6 years. And for her, the project means a lot, of course. It means a lot more than just paintings and colors. She explained how for her, we're trying to convey a message. We're trying to draw attention and eyes on Silwan so people know what's happening. When the big eyes started to show more and more, a lot of people were asking questions. Why the eyes? What does it mean? Who are these people? And other than drawing attention to Silwan, it's, of course, Jerusalem is a very small city, so people sometimes get surprised, like, how do people not know about Silwan? But it's such a special neighborhood, and its location close to the old city, with one entry and one exit to the main neighborhood. Kind of, if you don't have family there, you don't go visit. There's no reason for Jerusalemites to go there. And so the eyes help to draw attention for Jerusalemites before anybody else or internationals. And the project also affected positively the residents of Silwan. So a lot more tours started to happen. A lot of more people started asking questions. Zuhair actually also conducts tours with diplomats and the international community. And so the project kind of added a more deeper or another angle to the situation of Silwan. Including the residents also were talking about the children. So children in Silwan, they do face, on a psychological level, kind of a different environment than any other child in Jerusalem, because there's a lot of houses that have been taken. So there are settlers. Each settler family has their guards. So there's always people walking around with guns, other than the fact that the police car comes and goes at every second. So kids used to get detained. They still do, of course, until this day, but people didn't hear a lot about them. And a lot of altercations also happened between the children and the soldiers or Israeli forces. So the project kind of helped them work on these murals, kind of make their neighborhood a little bit nicer, add a little bit of color. They were also involved, so the project does workshops, painting workshops with the kids. Some of the murals were actually discussed with the kids what they want to do, let's say on one of the stairs. So they decided what they wanted to paint, and then we painted with them. So some of these kids, Jinan was saying that they were able to see the fear in their eyes. And so working on something like this and creating this kind of environment helped them psychologically and improved their psychological status. And some of the residents, every time the IWitnessSilwan team comes to the neighborhood, they go out of their homes, they say hello, they get invited for coffee. So there was some kind of relief or familiarity with eyewitness team being there and present. And I think that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for joining, and she's happy to be here.
يعطيكم العافية جنان وزهير مرام and Susan, the whole Eyewitness Silwan team. Thank you for all of your work. You know, they were sharing with us the reality of Jerusalemites, of Palestinians in Jerusalem, in Silwan. We know that the conditions across Palestine, in Gaza, in Jerusalem, in the West Bank, for all Palestinians is increasingly getting dire and worse. And we know what Israel is trying to do, specifically in Silwan and Jerusalem, is to exile, is to push out, is to displace the Palestinians that are living there for generations. And what Zuhair shared, what Janan shared, Maram, and the whole Eyewitness Silwan team is that they refuse to be exiled and refuse to be displaced, right? And as long as the Palestinians in Jerusalem, as long as there continues to be a single Palestinian that lives there, they will not accept exile or displacement. That means that we need to continue to not accept silence, to not accept complicity or inaction, right? This is not just to witness what's happening, it's also to take action and to fight back. And as you know, they shared the eyes of the murals for the people of Silwan is to show, as Muhammad al-Kurd said, to look Palestinians in the eyes and to confront this reality and to do something about it. And so it's an honor to introduce and welcome our next speaker, which is Muhammad al-Kurd, a writer from Jerusalem, from occupied Palestine, a central voice in the struggle for Palestinian liberation and justice. Thank you for joining us, Muhammad, and welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here. Despite the circumstances, it's really great to be part of this webinar. Today, I want to speak for a little bit. I think what Zuhair and everybody else, and Maram and everyone else, and Janan contributed has already been super illuminating and insightful. So I will just try to zoom out and talk about the context in occupied Jerusalem and Palestine at large, and try to paint a photo of settler colonialism in the region. We understand what's happening in Silwan today to be a part of the ongoing Nakba, which we know did not start or end in 1948. But today it's concealed through various means and justifications. The Zionist regime uses various methods and justifications, like I said, but the goal remains the same, which is to steal the land and replace the native with the settler. And we see this through manufacturing real estate disputes, like happens in my neighborhood, Sheikh Jarrah, or demolishing homes built without authorization, or stealing lands by declaring them military zones, like what happens in An-Naqab, or through declaring lands to be archaeological sites or environmentally protected or state-owned, which happens in Masafir Yatta and Silwan and Khan al-Ahmar and other places that we hear about, and some other places that we don't hear about. There's been, decades and decades of insatiable Zionist greed over Palestinian land, but Palestinians in Jerusalem have been able to stunt this and suppress this a little bit. I want to speak mostly about Silwan and about how this architecture of displacement takes place. We know, and we have just been told, that Palestinians in Silwan are routinely ordered by the occupation to demolish their own homes to make rooms for Zionist settlers. And as absurd as it sounds, they are often forced to fund their own dispossession, paying thousands of dollars or thousands of shekels in demolition fees. This has been extenuating since the genocide of Gaza has started, and since most of media attention is rightfully turned towards Gaza. The Israeli authorities, the Israeli occupation authorities, have been doing everything in their power to drive Palestinians away from their homes, drive Jerusalemites away from their homes. Now, in the case of Silwan, the justification specifically is that the Silwan's homes were built, quote unquote, without authorization. But when you look this up in the media and when you're reading the headlines, be it in Hebrew or in English, or even sometimes in Arabic, the media will not tell you that 93% of building permit applications submitted by Palestinians to the Israeli occupation municipality in Jerusalem are rejected. And this figure in the West Bank rises to 99%. So it's not that Palestinians are building their homes without building permits, it's that the Israeli authorities are not giving them any building permits. And, the more important aspect here, the more important factoid here actually, is that while Zionist officials cite quote unquote illegal construction as the pretext for destroying Palestinian homes, even under international law, the Israeli authorities have no jurisdiction over the eastern part of Jerusalem, because Jerusalem is occupied. The Israelis have no business being there in the first place. And to make this a little bit even more absurd, a real true fact that almost feels like theater is that the man who was responsible for many, many years for blocking tens of thousands of Palestinian building applications is Yonatan Youssef, who is the former spokesperson for the settlers in Sheikh Jarrah. And he's an affiliate of a settler organization called Nakhlat Shamaan International. And he, at the same time, is a council member in the Jerusalem municipality. And we see these kinds of contradictions and kind of oxymoronic characters exist throughout the settler colonial context. For example, the judge who ruled that Masafir Yatta in the South Hebron Hills must be dispossessed is himself a settler in an illegal Israeli settlement in the West Bank. So we see this all across Palestine. Now, the reality of what's happening in Silwan is that the demolitions are part of a larger plan to build what they're calling a biblical park, which is another kind of atrocious detail here. They're trying to revive Ir David, which is the biblical kingdom of King David, which is, to translate this, the occupation is using ancient religious mythology without archaeological evidence as a pretext to destroy hundreds of Palestinian homes. Now, obviously, we should say that even if there were archaeological evidence, no biblical story could justify the forced displacement of a native population. And as we know today, the lives of thousands of Palestinians, tens of thousands of Palestinians in occupied Jerusalem, hundreds of them in Silwan, hang in the balance, and they are battling not only these quote unquote political battles that are you know easily concealed political battles, but they're also fighting against this elongated, drawn out psychological warfare that haunts them and their families and their loved ones for decades and decades and decades. And once we take the time to understand that this is not a political battle, but in fact a very legal one, we understand that the courts that are built by settlers and for settlers for the sole purpose of expelling Palestinians and stepping over Palestinian parties and stealing Palestinian rights will not be the arenas in which we save Palestinian rights. They will not be the arenas in which we fight displacement and dispossession, but it will be only through international pressure that we can stop this displacement. Many, and I won't speak much about this because I know Sumaya is with us on the call, but many, if not all of the organizations that are collaborating with the Israeli judiciary that is racist and collaborating with the Israeli government and Israeli military are tax-exempt charities registered in the United States. We're talking about Jewish American organizations that are funding the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in Jerusalem and beyond. And the fight against dispossession in Silwan starts against them. With this, I want to thank you for your time. I hope I didn't speak for too long. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and hopefully this campaign will flourish into success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. The urgency of targeting these specific organizations, targeting these institutions that are facilitating this displacement is a responsibility that we have wherever we are to cut off that supply line, the legitimacy, the funds that is allowing this displacement and exile to happen. And so up next, we have Sumaya Wad, who's going to share a little bit about settler funding and specifically these organizations and these institutions. Sumaya is a Palestinian writer and organizer based in New York City. She focuses on Palestine, immigration, labor, and Islamophobia. She is the director of strategy for the Adala Justice Project. Thank you for being here with us, Sumaya. Take it.
Thanks so much, and thank you everyone who spoke before me. So I'm going to talk about two things, and hopefully under 5 minutes. The first is about Christian Zionism, and then the second about the organizations that are registered in the U.S. that fundraise and help to reproduce and sustain much of the settlements and the ethnic cleansing that's happening in Jerusalem and across the occupied West Bank. So first with Christian Zionism. So Christian Zionism is basically a political ideology that is founded on the belief that Israel today is a continuation of a biblical land of Israel, and that the occupation, the ethnic cleansing, the genocide that we're witnessing has to happen in order for the quote unquote Holy Land to be returned to its rightful people, and then for the end times to begin. And all of this is really founded in the idea that like Christian Zionism is a means to an end, and an end that is not hospitable to most people unless you believe in Christian Zionism. And it sounds very fantastical. It sounds almost silly. And yet there are tens of millions of people that adhere to this, and that actually have a lot of power and a lot of influence. And so one organization that I'm going to name in the United States is called Christians United for Israel. It's a Christian Zionist organization, or KUFI for short. It represents some 30 million people, 30 million members, and they make up a pretty hefty voting bloc, and one that figures like Donald Trump actually rely on. And part of the reasoning for Trump during his first presidency for moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem is in response to this Christian Zionist voting base. And to organizations like Christians United for Israel. And in fact, several key people in Donald Trump's administration are Christian Zionists. The most recent of which is Mike Huckabee, who I think you're going to hear about a little bit more on this call later on. But Mike Huckabee was just appointed as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. And he has been on record in 2017 and in multiple trips he made to Palestine, saying there is no such thing as Palestinians, saying settlements are not settlements, there's no such thing as an occupation, and that settlements are just neighborhoods. And so he's a key spokesperson for the ongoing ethnic cleansing in Silwan, in Sheikh Jarrah, in across the occupied West Bank, and then of course with what's happening in Gaza. And there's many ways in which Christian Zionism manifests, and one historic one that I'll just briefly mention is that Lord Balfour in the 1917 Balfour Declaration. Lord Balfour was heavily influenced by Christian Zionism, and that was a key part of the Balfour Declaration and of why he pushed for the Balfour Declaration, for giving Palestine to the Zionists, a land that he wasn't in his power to give, but which he did. And the Balfour Declaration and the belief that Balfour had was rooted in Christian Zionism as well. And then fast forward to today, one of the many ways it manifests is in organizations that continue to fund the settlements that are being built on Palestinian land, and the ethnic cleansing that we're seeing. And here I want to connect this to a campaign called Not on Our Dime, which is a campaign that was launched in New York State. And the idea behind it was launched in 2023, which at the time was one of the years where it was the highest recorded rate of like violence against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank and in Jerusalem, via settler violence. And Not on Our Dime was launched with the explicit purpose of making it so organizations operating in New York, settlement organizations, so organizations that are fundraising millions of dollars every single year, sending those funds to settlement organizations like Ataret Kohanim, which Zuhair mentioned, which Muhammad mentioned, which is one of the organizations that's doing quote unquote land reclamation, but really ethnic cleansing in Silwan and elsewhere. They get to take these millions of dollars every year from the US. They're tax exempt, meaning New Yorkers are paying taxes that are subsidizing these funds to go towards the ethnic cleansing in Palestine. And in fact, since October 7th, many of these organizations, including Ataret Kohanim, are actually also fundraising for some of the units, Israeli soldiers and their units operating in Gaza, who are part of the genocide, so who are taking part in these war crimes. And so what Not on Our Dime does is it targets these organizations in an attempt to strip them of their charitable status, to make it clear that they are masquerading as charities, when in fact all they are doing is fundraising for war crimes, fundraising for genocide, fundraising for ethnic cleansing. And not only does it attack them in a way that would dissolve their charitable status, but it also puts fines on them, fines upward of $1 million. It is currently this legislation has been introduced in 2023. It was reintroduced last year and expanded to include Gaza. And the list of signatories on the legislation is growing, slowly but growing. It has not yet passed, but there have been several other attempts in states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Chicago to also introduce a Not on Our Dime bill to do the same thing, to target organizations masquerading as charities that are fundraising for illegal settlements. And for the sake of time, I will stop here, but you can learn more about it in the link that Emily just put. And if you're in a state where you want to launch a campaign like Not on Our Dime, you should get in touch via the website, and we'll talk through what that looks like, what the next steps look like. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much, Sumaya, for sharing one really crucial and important way to help offer a roadmap on confronting these organizations on this flow of money, legitimacy, and resources to displacement, to exile, to ethnic cleansing, and to genocide. We have with us our next speaker who's going to talk about boycott, divest, sanctions, the movement to do and confront Zionism in Korea. And we have Jaa from BDS Korea with us, who's going to talk about from the streets of Seoul to the front lines of Silwan, how to struggle against this ethnic cleansing from wherever we are. So please join me in welcoming Jaa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Za'a. I'm core member of BDS Korea, Palestine Solidarity Group based in Seoul. Our group was first formed 23 years ago in 2003 to organize against the Korean government sending troops to Iraq. It's a great honor to speak here today and to share some of the work we've been doing in South Korea and connect with more people who want to join. We've been working to raise awareness about how Hyundai machinery has been used as a tool of apartheid in Palestine. And this whole campaign started with a video from East Jerusalem. Back in 2011, Jihad, a coordinator from the BDS National Committee, contacted us with a video of home demolition in East Jerusalem. In the video, a young girl was crying while holding a doll in front of a flattened house, which had been destroyed by a Hyundai bulldozer. It was so shocking that we immediately began investigating whether Hyundai knew about this and how they were responding. We sent them letters with video clips, but their only response was that the equipment was sold for civilian purposes, not of militaries, and they can't control the second-hand market. Essentially, the same excuse they continue to give today. In 2017, alongside the BDS National Committee, we officially launched the Boycott Hyundai Global Campaign. And we continue this today as the Stop Home Destroyer Hyundai campaign. And we have a global front that you can join, which will be translating into English, Korean, and Arabic as we move forward. As a Korean organizer, I want to empathize what it means to try to stop Hyundai's bulldozer and how it's connected to stand in solidarity with Palestine. Hyundai isn't just destroying homes in Palestine. The company has also been implicated in land destruction elsewhere. For example, in Brazil's Amazon, where their machinery was widely used for illegal gold mining operations that displaced and killed Kayapo, Munduruku, and Yanomami indigenous people. Hyundai announced it would withdraw its equipment from the region and support the Amazons, but this was just greenwashing lip service. Korea has learned this neo-colonization from its own destruction. Now a divided land with the world's most militarized border, South Korea has effectively become, much like what's so-called Israel in the Middle East, a strategic proxy for US power, now playing that role in the Pacific region. While Korea has liberated from Japanese occupation in 1945, South Korea was officially established in August 1948, the same year that the Nakba began. Since the Korean War, which technically never ended, the peninsula has remained divided and still in a state of ceasefire. The US military continues to maintain bases across South Korea, including the largest overseas military base, Camp Humphreys, which occupies the city of Pyeongtaek. Residents in these areas of military bases are actively resisting, chanting, 우리는 미국의 식민지가 아니다. We are not a colony of the United States. In each of these locations, large corporations called chaebals serve as collaborators and agents of the South Korean government, effectively serving US imperial interests. For example, in Seongju, the company Lotte forced villagers out of their land and ancestral grave sites to build a golf course, which served to clear the land for US weapon deployment known as THAAD. Hyundai Group, along with Samsung, has been integral to South Korea's development through every industry possible: construction, car, shipbuilding, and notably land and homes. There are Samsung and Hyundai apartments here, and even weapon manufacturers like Hanwha, who partner with Elbit, have Hanwha apartments. Imagine walking around a city in the US and seeing Microsoft condos, Lockheed Martin apartments, and like Tesla gated communities, labeled literally like that with no shame. So when we talk about organizing in modern day South Korea, We need to talk about the roles of the US military, family conglomerates like HD Hyundai, and colonial forms of Christianity. In terms of the cultural organizing regarding Christianity, South Korea sends one of the highest numbers of pilgrims to Israel each year, which is why we want to support IWitnessSilwan in raising awareness about the ongoing construction of the so-called Bible theme park in Silwan, especially because HD Hyundai bulldozers are being used. Colonial forms of Christianity have also violently replaced indigenous spiritualities and cultural practices in Korea, which is why the Global Front team prioritizes strengthening connections like today. So when it comes to Hyundai and its actions in Palestine, it's not just about ending corporate crime. It's about our shared decolonial struggle. Since the start of the genocide, more than 200 major civil society groups in Korea have come together under a coalition, continuing weekend protest. And with that, campaign targeting HD Hyundai has been gaining a strong momentum. For anyone interested in details of Hyundai's complicity for your campaign, we just published a report through Amnesty Korea that outlines pretty much everything I talked about with facts and figures. So moving forward, please know that we are with you, South Korea, in South Korea, and contact us to keep the conversation and organizing going. We have to build this network of solidarity because HD Hyundai is expanding their networks too, which means HD Hyundai recently and proudly has partnered with Palantir, a US-based big data analytics company with deep ties to the FBI and ICE. In other words, advanced Korean hardware will be running on US software towards projects like developing automated warships. While this can feel overwhelming, we are in solidarity with those before us, those listening now, and those creating a future free from apartheid. Thank you very much again for this time together. Thank you.
This is incredible and inspiring work, Ja'a. Thank you for all of that work. Thank you for sharing it with us, and thank you for really showing what it means to be in solidarity and continue to fight against these corporations, these institutions that are really, complicit and implicated in the oppression and the blood of not just the Palestinian people, but the Korean people and across the world, right? The devastation that US imperialism and militarism wreak across the world is seen from Korea to Palestine. And we know that our fight and our struggle is one because our oppressor is one, and our freedom and liberation is intertwined with each other. And you've shown us what that work looks like, what boycotting, what confronting, what divesting looks like, and what it means to be in a long-term fight, how we can sharpen our strategies and sharpen our organizing, and use different tactics and ways to do that. And one of the ways that we can continue to organize and fight the elimination of Palestinians in Jerusalem and across Palestine is through cultural resistance. And up next, we have Sharif Sarhan, who's an artist and organizer from Gaza, who's going to share a little bit about the importance of art in resistance movements. Sharif Sarhan was born in Gaza in 1976, is an artist and professional photographer. He is a founding member of the collective Shababik for contemporary art and a member of the Association of Palestinian Artists. Sarhan received his diploma in arts from ICS in the United States. Sarhan also published a book of his photographs titled Gaza Lives in 2012. His work has been exhibited in Gaza, Ramallah, Beit Lahem, Jerusalem, Amman, Britain, and the United States, and most recently in art in Berlin in 2022. Sarhan is the co-founder of the Su Stories project and is the main curator for the exhibition. Please join me in welcoming Sharif. Thank you for joining us.
ثانك يو. شكرا كثير لكم. أنا بحب أحكي بالعربي لأنه بكون أكثر مرتاح. لأنه اللغة الإنجليزية شوية بعافية.
So hello everyone. Sharif would like to speak in Arabic because it's his mother tongue, so he'll be a bit more comfortable.
وأنا بعتقد إنه الفن هو واحد من أهم الأدوات بنظري الشخصي، وكثير من أصدقاء الفنانين، وهو أنا بعتبره القوة الناعمة للتغيير.
For him, art is one of the very most important tools, and other artists, his friends, believe it the same way. But it's kind of a delicate tool.
وبالتالي الفن خلال 70 أو 80 سنة اللي فاتوا هو لعب دور كثير مهم بتغيير مفاهيم ورؤية العالم للقضية الفلسطينية.
And art in the past 70 to 80 years helped change the image and what was thought about the Palestinian issue.
وهذا دوري أنا كفنان، ودور كثير من الفنانين الفلسطينيين، سواء موجودين داخل فلسطين أو خارجها، بكيف يخلوا عيون العالم على فلسطين. يمكن أنا وكثير من زمايلي في غزة بنعمل فوكس أو تركيز على غزة، بس كمان بنفس الوقت بنحكي عن كل فلسطين، فلسطين من النهر للبحر.
Of course, this is my role as a Palestinian artist, and all Palestinian artists inside Palestine and outside to keep eyes drawn to Palestine. And he, as a Gazan artist, a lot of his focus is on Gaza, but also on the rest of Palestine from the river to the sea.
وبسبب الحصار اللي كان مفروض على غزة، كان كتير صعب انه نفرج العالم غزة، او العالم تطلع على غزة. كان الفن هو واحد من الاسباب او الطرق اللي كنا بنحاول نقول للعالم انه احنا موجودين هان على هاي الارض.
So, because of the siege that was on Gaza, it was very hard to show what is Gaza. So, art was one of the ways to tell the people and show the people who we are and show Gaza through our eyes.
ولهيك كان في كثير مبادرات انعملت بغزة علشان نقدر ننقل الفن الفلسطيني للعالم، ونخلي العالم يشوفوا كيف الفن الفلسطيني ويسمعوا قصص الناس اللي موجودة بغزة وبفلسطين بشكل عام.
So a lot of initiatives were done to kind of pass Palestinian art and Palestinian stories from Gaza to the world.
أو واحدة من هاي المبادرات اللي أنا كنت بشتغل عليها كان اسمها شبابيك، وشبابيك بتعني ويندوز.
One of these initiatives was called Shababik. Shababik means windows.
أو هاي يعني إنه إحنا شباك على العالم، والعالم شباك علينا. إحنا بنقدر نشوف العالم منه، والعالم بيقدر يشوفنا منه.
And that basically the name came from this is the window where we see the world and the world is able to see us.
وهاي المبادرة كانت عبارة عن مساحة متخصصة بالفنون البصرية، وتقديم كل الفنانين الفلسطينيين، سواء الشباب أو المحترفين بغزة، للجمهور المحلي والجمهور العالمي.
So this initiative was focused on visual arts and to present local artists فنانين محليين سوري كم مرة
للجمهور المحلي والجمهور العالمي.
to the local community and audience and to the international audience.
كانت هاي المساحة عبارة عن صورة مختلفة وجديدة عن غزة، ما لم يشاهدها العالم، انه يكون في جاليري ومساحة للفن وبث الحب والامل والحرية والسلام.
And the space was a bit different. So to have a gallery filled with love, hope, and peace in Gaza was something new and something different.
وسنة بعد سنة كنا بنطور البرامج اللي بنشتغل فيها من منح إنتاجية لإقامات فنانين في غزة يقيموا في استوديوهات خاصة لإنتاج أعمالهم الفنية، وكمان معارض فردية أو جماعية.
Year after year, there was additions to this gallery and to this initiative. So there were private studios where artists were able to go and create their art, to have galleries for individual artists and collectively.
وواحدة من الأشياء اللي كنا بنسويها كمبادرة مع المجتمع المحلي هو الرسم على الجدران، زي مشروع شاهد على السلوان، واستخدام الجدران كوسيط لنقل رسائلنا الاجتماعية والفنية والثقافية والسياسية كمان بنفس الوقت، لنحكي فيها لكل العالم شو بيصير بغزة أو بفلسطين.
One of the things that this initiative used to do with the local community was murals. So to draw on walls, to convey different messages, cultural, political, social, all types of messages, just similar to the idea of IWitnessSilwan.
شبابيك بدأت كمبادرة أو كمساحة بال 2009.
So it started as a space and initiative in 2009.
وخلال السنوات هاي كلها كان في مئات من الفنانين اللي اشتغلوا مع شبابيك وأنتجوا مشاريع لها علاقة بحياتنا اليومية وقصصنا.
And since then, hundreds of artists were able to collaborate and produce projects that has to do with our life.
بس مرات الفن بيكون مزعج للآخرين.
But sometimes art is a little annoying to others.
بديسمبر 2023 الطائرات الحربية الإسرائيلية قصفت الدور الأول من شبابيك وفقدنا الكثير من الأعمال الفنية، رغم أنه قبل بكم من يوم كان في نازحين بهذا المكان أو في لاجئين بهذا المكان اللي هو تحول بالحرب من قاعة عرض لمكان لإيواء اللاجئين أو الشاردين من غزة.
So in December 2023, actually, there was an airstrike that destroyed the first floor of the gallery. Of course, during the war, it became a safe space for people that were displaced from their homes. And the first floor was destroyed in December 2023.
وبإبريل 2024 القوات الإسرائيلية دمرت شبابيك بشكل كامل ومتعمد وعن قصد، رغم أنها عارفة أنه هذا المكان أو هاي المساحة هي مساحة متخصصة بالفنون ولا تشكل أي خطر.
So in April 2024, it was completely destroyed. Although, of course, they knew that this is an art gallery, this is a peaceful space. It has nothing to do with anything, but it was on purpose completely destroyed.
وشبابيك هي فكرة والفكرة لا تموت، لذلك احنا مستمرين بالعمل.
So Shababik is an idea, and the idea never dies. And this is exactly why it's still alive and we're still working.
And thank you.
أترجمها بالعربي هاي؟
لا شكرا.
And thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Sharif. يعطيك العافية. Thank you for your work. You know, you're talking about how they targeted during the genocide in Gaza, Shababik, Center for Cultural Resistance. And cultural resistance is a hub for, you know, maintaining the life and the blood of a people, right? The existence of a people relies on their culture. So cultural resistance itself refuses the logic of elimination, of exile, of displacement. It itself is the center of the continued presence of Palestinians. It's, how we say that this culture is what remains of a people. As long as the culture remains, that elimination is not successful, right? And we know that that will never be successful, that Palestine and Palestinians will never be exiled, eliminated from the land because of the continued resistance of Palestinians against this displacement and erasure, but also from the continued solidarity of the international community and continuing to take action. So, up next, we have Ray, Packer, and Susan from IWitnessSilwan who are going to share with us how we can take this action, to hand us tools to continue to disrupt this injustice. And so really this is one of the most central parts of this webinar is how we take these words that all these speakers have shared with us about the reality, about the importance of art, and how we actually take this step towards action. So please join me in welcoming Raper, artist and organizer, who's going to share with us how we can do that.
Thank you so much, Violette, and for everyone who's presented. So I'm going to be sharing a bit about a campaign, which will share how you can get involved and contribute to this project. And really everyone who, ends up starting a campaign or taking action in some way, making art in response to this project is joining Palestinians' resistance to ethnic cleansing in Jerusalem. And our goal is really to create a powerful cultural movement based on the murals in Silwan that compels people to confront Israeli ethnic cleansing across Palestine and helps them understand the forces behind it, as well as pressure points where we might leverage our collective power. And you heard a lot about that already from Sumaya and from Za'a. And yeah. So the name of the campaign comes from Muhammad Al-Kurd's, who you also heard from on this call, new book called Perfect Victims, where he talks about this idea of looking Palestinians in the eye and how that's something that the West refuses to do, and that's part of the dehumanization of Palestinians. He talks about how in the West, for Palestinians to be worthy of sympathy, let alone freedom, they need to be angelic or defanged, respectable, relatable, unthreatening. And he talks about how if you read the wrong book, if you joke inappropriately, if you write about resistance, if you graffiti the walls, which of course Palestinians in Silwan are doing, are painting, a large scale murals on the walls, oftentimes at gunpoint of settlers or Israeli soldiers. This is something that these are just totally, not only understandable but righteous responses to occupation, ethnic cleansing, but they're, deemed illegitimate by the West. So, this phrase of looking Palestinians in the eye, this concept of looking Palestinians in the eye, really resonates with the struggle in Silwan, especially since it's, only 5 kilometers from Sheikh Jarrah. And since these murals, as Maram and Susan talked about earlier, can be seen from miles away on the hillside, they guide people to the Silwan neighborhood and invite them to bear witness to and join residents' struggle, to basically, look them in the eye and, take their resistance into their own hands. So the kind of like big picture long-term campaign goals, and these are big goals that are in sync with the rest of the movement for Palestine, and that the campaign can't and won't accomplish alone. But these are, things that we're working towards as part of a larger interconnected organizing ecosystem. So ending financial and political support for Israeli ethnic cleansing in Silwan and across Palestine. And of course, the US and all governments that fund and arm Israel are behind this. But, we've already heard on this call about specific forces that, we can target in addition to that will be the main focuses of this campaign. So, that's pressuring institutions to divest from the Israeli settler industry, including tourism, Christian Zionism, and then companies like we heard about, like HD Hyundai. So these forces that are complicit. shifting the public to challenge Zionism, including Christian Zionism, Zionism in all its forms, expanding cross-movement and international connections with Palestine. And this is something that, as you can see, we're already doing by building these relationships with BDS Korea. And then, as you'll hear about a little bit later in this presentation, and you heard about earlier, the Irish muralists, and hopefully many more around the world. And to just broadly instill curiosity about conviction in and connection to Palestinians' freedom struggle, making people look Palestinians in the eye. Yes.
Thank you for sharing all this. Your screen is not shared with the presentation, so if that is something that you
Oh my
would like
God.
to
Thank
do,
you. Yes.
I just want to flag
Thank you,
that.
thank you, thank you. Okay, well, we haven't gotten to, I'll just show you really, can people see it now? Thanks so much, Violette. Can people see it? Oh, slide.
We can see
This.
it. We can see it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so intro, here you can, hold on, now it's not. Okay, so this is just with the quote from Perfect Victims. And then here's the campaign goals. So it's pretty much what I just said. And if anyone has any questions about this part of it, we can get to that in the Q&A. So intermediate campaign goals. So, these are things that we can definitely accomplish with time and effort and coordination with all of you and all of the groups and coalitions that we're going to be reaching out to. But will increase public opposition to Israeli ethnic cleansing in Silwan, in public spaces around the world, at campaign targets, and on in traditional and social media. Educate people about the forces behind ethnic cleansing and pressure points where we can leverage our collective power. So those are the targets I'll be talking about and that you've already heard about on this presentation. Helping people understand the connection between ethnic cleansing in Silwan and across Palestine, as well as to local struggles or international struggles locally, or local struggles around the world against forced displacement, state violence, and surveillance. And this was something that Mohammed talked about when he was linking the forces of, colonization and ethnic cleansing around Palestine and providing all of that historical context about the ongoing Nakba. And engaging and mobilizing key communities, artists, students, organizers, progressive anti-Zionist Christians to build community and increase sustained action. And as we've heard from so many people on this call, including Janan and Sharif, creating art together or using art in direct actions can really give life to a movement. And I think that, in this moment, in the movement, and it probably is felt, in many places around the world, that's something that we really desperately need to be able to stay resilient. So I'll share more about how to use these tactics and get involved as artists and organizers after I describe the targets, but just briefly, to accomplish these goals, we're going to be organizing and encouraging other people to organize direct actions, targeting and disrupting Israeli tourism expos, university study abroad programs to Israel, Christian Zionist events of all kinds, complicit companies like HG Hyundai and Zionist fundraisers, land sales, which I saw someone mention in the chat, foundations and institutions. We're going to be creating with, the help of or the participation of artists all around the world, a collective arsenal of art that's in dialogue with the murals in Silwan and building and mobilizing a grassroots artist network for mural installations, projections, pasted posters and banners in high visibility locations across US cities or in and around the locations of the different targets and at actions. Plug organizers into existing campaigns where targets directly impact Silwan, such as Not on Our Dime, which you saw or you heard Sumaya talk about earlier. And generate media coverage and social media engagement around Silwan, the IWitnessSilwan project, and the campaign. So I'm going to go through these briefly because you already heard Sumaya and Za'a talk about them a lot, or really everyone. I mean, these were people that Zuhair mentioned in his description of what's been happening on the grounds. But just to really synthesize it and bring it all together so that it's listed out like exactly who the campaign is targeting. One of the first and foremost targets is the Israeli tourism industry, which profits from these settler-run parks like the City of David. Mohammed also talked a lot about that. And these parks serve as a motive and a justification for expelling Palestinians and demolishing their homes. You can see a photo of what that looks like. And the City of David, just to review, is a biblical theme park, quote unquote, that entertains over 1 million tourists annually with Zionist propaganda based on false archaeology. And the murals in Silwan are actually able to be seen from these sites, and that's part of their strategic value, because the City of David actually includes tunnels underneath Silwan that whisk tourists from one spot to another without having to interact with the Palestinian community above. And so, the murals are an intervention in that erasure. And the tunnels, along with archaeological excavations that search for proof that the City of David, quote unquote, actually existed, compromised the structural integrity of Palestinian homes above. And the propaganda, of course, spread by the park's tours and written materials attempt to erase and delegitimize Palestinians' deep historical roots in Silwan, which make the struggle to preserve their roots in history so important. This is a photo from the Not on Our Dime campaign that Sumaya mentioned. So these, settler, quote unquote, nonprofit organizations like Ateret Kohanim, which Zuhair mentioned, and Elad, they spearhead these expulsions through court cases that rubber stamp fabricated purchases of Palestinian land, giving, the supposed authority to settlers to take over Palestinian homes. And these organizations get a lot of their funding from these US-based counterparts that illegally funnel tax-exempt money from American donors and taxpayers to Israeli settlements. You heard a lot about Christian Zionism from Sumaya also. But, while lesser known than Jewish Zionists, Christian Zionists are the largest voting bloc, lobbying force, private funding source, and tourism market that materially supports Israel's colonization and ethnic cleansing of Palestine in general, and Silwan in particular. And I think maybe, the only thing I'll add to what Sumaya said is that prominent Christian Zionist politicians like Trump's nominee for U.S. ambassador to Israel, who was actually just confirmed, Mike Huckabee, have financial ties to the settler industry, and Huckabee has actually visited Silwan and the City of David, and including events that are celebrating these settler-run sites. We heard so much about amazing presentation about HG Hyundai, so I'll just keep it short, but that's another one of our key targets as well. Being in coalition with BDS Korea and all the incredible work that they're doing. So here's how artists can take action. And, like I said, everyone who engages with this project is joining Palestinians' cultural resistance to Israeli ethnic cleansing in Silwan. And even though I'm dividing this up by artists and organizers, really all of the ways of getting involved in some way straddle or merge art and organizing, and entail some collaboration between the two, or even dissolving those boundaries. So you can contribute to this collective arsenal of campaign artwork by creating original artwork that's inspired by IWitnessSilwan and critiques the forces behind ethnic cleansing in Jerusalem that I just discussed. Sorry. You can share and use IWitnessSilwan's murals and original artwork for banner drops, projections, and postering at institutions complicit in Israeli ethnic cleansing, such as campuses, art and cultural spaces, companies, and places of worship. You can do art-oriented disruptions of events that financially or culturally enable Israeli ethnic cleansing, such as Christian Zionist events, Israeli tourism expos, settler organization fundraisers, illegal Zionist land sales, and campus study abroad sessions. And of course, we're constantly building this list of possible, things to disrupt or institutions that are complicit. So I think this will continue to expand over time. And also, if you have insights from your own organizing or your own community, that's also very welcome. Mural projects, wheat pasting, or graffiti that reproduces, incorporates, or riffs off of IWitnessSilwan's murals and messaging in high traffic public spaces. And then, artists can also post their original art and invite the IWitnessSilwan Instagram account to collaborate. And any original art that you make, if you, so choose, can also be sold in the IWitnessSilwan shop to make it publicly and widely accessible in printed form, and to also support the project on the ground. So here's how organizers can take action. And as you'll see, it's very deeply intertwined with the first slide. But to organize these art-oriented actions and disruptions using IWitnessSilwan's murals and original campaign artwork. And this is just basically the same thing at institutions complicit in Israeli ethnic cleansing, at events that financially or culturally enable Israeli ethnic cleansing in high traffic public spaces. Students in particular can organize a campaign to get your university to end Israel Study Abroad programs, many of which, or all of which contribute to the Israeli tourism industry, and many of which, visit these settler-run sites and therefore even more directly contribute to ethnic cleansing in Jerusalem or elsewhere. Christians can organize a campaign to stop, pilgrimages or tours to settler-run sites. As we talked about, Christian Zionists are, the biggest tourism market. So intervening in this is so important. And I saw someone in the chat mention, who said that they're a Palestinian Christian, and I think that this emphasis, and you'll see an example of this in a couple slides, but bringing Palestinian Christians into this conversation and showing all of the different ways that Christian Zionism harms Palestinian Christians specifically is going to be really important part of this work. Koreans and Korean Americans and all who stand in solidarity get involved with BDS Korea's HD Hyundai campaign. And then New Yorkers, as Sumaya brought up, get involved in the Not on Our Dime campaign, which targets so-called charities registered in New York that illegally funnel funds directly to settler organizations. So here's an example. Even though the campaign is just getting started, it's not a new idea for the project. So this was a mural that is in Silwan that says "We will remain." It was painted by Palestinian artist based in San Francisco, Chris Ghazaleh. And so he went to Silwan on a painting delegation, and then these sister murals were done in San Francisco and in Washington, D.C. And this is just and these were done, as part of actions. This was like a really, really large scale temporary street mural. And this, as you can see, was on a banner. So there's so much, flexibility and imagination that can be part of this project as people are responding. And I think that, a key takeaway from this is just looking at how simple idea can be translated to many different contexts and made relevant to those contexts. They kept the basic visual theme and conceptual theme, but they made it specific. So in Palestine, they want to communicate that Palestinians in Silwan will remain. In San Francisco, Palestinians are declaring that they will return. And in DC, this is a message of solidarity. We will liberate. So you can see that adaptation and customization happening, which is a really beautiful part of this project. So this is a quick video of the International Wall in Belfast. So this is not part of IWitnessSilwan, but you can see, but it will be when the Irish muralists do a response to the IWitnessSilwan project. And I put this here just because it is a really incredible large-scale project that shows, just how involved responses to IWitnessSilwan could be with resources and people who are interested in contributing in this way. But this is a like many hundreds of feet mural that was all Palestinian artists sending their work to Ireland. And then the Irish painters reproduced this on the International Wall in Belfast, which has a long history of showing anti-colonial solidarity murals. So, this is all to say that in your city, you could simply reproduce the murals in IWitnessSilwan paired with messaging, bringing people's attention to the forces behind Israeli ethnic cleansing. And, you don't need to come up with original artwork. You can, but, this is just showing like the absolute like wide range of ways to possibly get involved. So, and this is another one. This is using the murals in Silwan as part of a disruption of Mike Huckabee's confirmation hearing. And as I said earlier, Mike Huckabee was and is now the confirmed, was Trump's nominee for ambassador to Israel, has been confirmed. And, he is someone who has completely denied the existence of Palestinians, says there is no occupation, and believes that, basically like, Jews need to colonize the Holy Land and expel non-Jews and destroy Muslim holy sites to bring about the second coming of Jesus and the apocalypse. And, this is something that a lot of Christians obviously oppose, especially progressive and anti-Zionist Christians. So a group of them went to the confirmation hearing and disrupted it. And they were wearing shirts, and I'll play this video really quick, but that had a pair of eyes painted by a Palestinian artist, Sliman Mansour, which are of the eyes of the blind man who consented for his sight to be restored by Jesus at the Silwan pools. And, this mural was put up by IWitnessSilwan and by Palestinian Christian activists in Jerusalem to critique Christian Zionism and draw attention to its contradictions. So it was powerful for this mural to be brought into this Christian Zionist space. And I'll just play this quick video of the disruption.
Nomination of U.S. Ambassador to Israel. All eyes on Bethlehem. All eyes on the Lord. All eyes on Shaheen. All eyes on Al-Aqsa. All eyes on Bethlehem. All eyes on Jerusalem. My country. I am Christian. That is not Christianity. Christianity is about justice, not genocide. It's not ethnic cleansing. Anti-Christian Zionism is violence. And you can share justice. Will be free. Palestine will be free. I love the spotlight, don't you?
Sorry. And this is, on the relatively low lift side of things, this is how you could simply, make a piece of art responding to the project, post it on social media and collaborate with the account with a caption that describes why the struggle in Silwan resonates with you. This was done by artist Nada Esmail, who, visited the murals or was just walking around Jerusalem, saw the murals and, ended up making her way into Silwan and meeting Zuhair, and learning about the struggle, which is, as Maram mentioned earlier, a beautiful common experience. And finally, here are some resources and contact information so that if you want to get involved, you're supported in doing so, or if you have any other ideas. So there's the website, IWitnessSilwan.org. There's, you can follow us or DM us at IWitnessSilwan on Instagram. And then this is maybe one of the most important links to write down or copy and remember is bit.ly/look Palestinians in the eyes. And you need this case. It's case sensitive, so make sure you capitalize the title. And so this is a resources folder on Google Drive. And it has an info packet for artists, an info packet for organizers, campaign strategy document that kind of summarizes what I shared in this presentation about the long-term goals, intermediate goals, and tactics. A report with images of murals, quotes from the core team that you can use to get an even deeper idea of what the project is all about. If you have any, can serve as kind of an FAQ. IWitnessSilwan's a question and answer article with the New York war crimes, published by Writers Against the War on Gaza. It has a doc for that in this folder. And then it will have this art collective art arsenal of original art responding to this project, toolkits, graphics, stencils, etc. As people start to make these and as more and more people contribute to the project. And then if you want to express interest in getting involved but don't know how, or if you have any questions of any kind or any ideas, you can email IWitnessSilwan at iwitnessilwan@proton.me. And this is basically the most secure email platform that you can use right now, so you can feel safe in doing so. And that's all. If you have any questions, please ask them in the Q&A.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you so much for really laying out what are the things that we can do, how we can get involved in this campaign, and the importance of really these images, this art of the eyes of, depicting what's happening in Palestine and what's happening in Silwan, and how we can use that in all of our different locales, wherever we are, to really connect us. I remember when I first joined the Palestinian Youth Movement, one of the first projects that we did was the We Will Return mural. That was the kind of sister mural to the one that was done in Silwan for We Will Remain. And it's a testament to kind of how art and cultural resistance can really ignite commitment, sustain our struggle for the long term, because that's what we need, right? And that's what this project offers, and it's even offered to me and many other organizers I know in PYM and beyond in the past. So this is an important opportunity, and Susan is going to share with us now something specific that y'all can do for Easter, an opportunity to really highlight this work and highlight this strategy. So go ahead, Susan, tell us what we
Okay.
can.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Ray, for that great presentation. And thank you, V. And thank you, everyone. So as you've been hearing, one of our focus projects is on Christian Zionism and raising awareness about it and trying to address it directly. And so in that regard, we're working with different Christian organizations, anti-Zionist organizations, or liberation theology organizations in Jerusalem and also in the US. In that regard, we've done a webinar, we've done different activities, this is the last mural that we installed, which is the eyes of the blind man who consented to be given sight by Jesus at the Silwan pools in occupied Jerusalem. And it's a painting by Slimon Mansour. And I want to show you exactly where it is. But first, I want to introduce you to some of my heroes. These are the folks that did the disruption, some of the folks that did the disruption, and you can see they're wearing this amazing, very striking t-shirt. So here, this is a part of Silwan. Silwan's a large area. Here you can see Aqsa, where the Dome of the Rock is, and Aqsa Mosque. And here is this is Wadi Hilwe right here. This is a settler area here. And right down here at the bottom is Al Bustan, which has been really attacked, and many houses have been demolished and occupants have been forcibly expelled. Here is Batn al Hawa, the top of it, where, as you've heard, so many houses have already been demolished and people forcibly expelled, and so many are under threat. And so here is a zoomed in. Right here is this is the Silwan pools here. There's two parts. This is the old pools, and this is a part where a kind of a smaller section of the pools are. This is the main entrance that has been taken over by the Israeli occupation City of David tourist project to turn Silwan into a biblical tourist attraction. This is the main entrance to the Silwan pools, and the eyes of the blind man are right here. So the eyes of the blind man actually look right at the entrance. Here's another look at it. The entrance is here, and the eyes are here. The idea being that the eyes will really confront tourists and also look back and challenge Christian Zionism, which is the foreign policy of Christian nationalism in the United States. And we are going to dedicate this mural on April 27th. And that's very exciting for us. This is an area here where people can stand. So this will be it'll be good visually. You'll be able to see what's happening. And then we will have a coordinated a number of actions. And if you want to get involved in that, please let us know. We want to do banner hangs of the eyes of the blind man, wheat pasting, all the things that Ray just went through, that menu, to really try and draw attention to this. So it won't exactly be on Easter. It's going to be after Easter. It's an extended Easter experience. And that's it for me. And I hope that you will get involved in this specific campaign that's upcoming.
So there y'all have it. There's one really specific way that you can take action right now, get involved in this powerful way of organizing and cultural resistance, and really uplift these murals, the eyes of the blind man, the role of Christian Zionism and these charitable institutions, um, and take up the role and responsibility that we have to always and continue to fight back against the escalations that are happening in Silwan, in Jerusalem, in Gaza, and across Palestine. We are going to answer some of your questions um, before we close out. And it seems like we have a couple of questions in the queue. I'm gonna go with the first one is how can non-US based individuals support? I think that would be a question for you, Ray or Susan. How can non-US based individuals really get involved with this effort?
I can start and then maybe Susan, you can add if you want.
Okay.
Or if do you want to start?
Yeah, let me start.
Okay.
But there's many ways, so just get in touch with us. We can help. There's we work internationally. One of the ways, very concretely, is that we take images in the IWitnessSilwan mural project, for example. We take digital images, blow them up, and glue them to the wall. In other words, we can do anything. We can cross any distance, any border. So we can totally figure out a way for people all over the world to participate. That's the long and the short of it. Just get in touch with us.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I think these types of efforts are best spearheaded in groups. So I think the a great way to start would be to connect with anyone that you might already be in relationship with locally, and see what you might have capacity for to do together, and see what there might be like local interest in. And then also assess like your local context, like where are the targets in your area? Any are there do any of the targets that we mentioned, are they relevant in your city? And then also yeah, just I think that that's also something that, as Susan mentioned, that we can help you assess too. Once you like tell us where you live, we can do a little bit of research and see, are there going to be any settler organization fundraisers there, or these types of things. So yeah, it's just all about assessing how your local context functions politically and what you might have capacity and interest for.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Susan. Okay, a couple of the questions that we have kind of were answered already, or that you can find on the website at bit.ly/look Palestinians in the eyes. You can find the artwork there, the targets, the campaign strategy. So go to that website, look it up, get the resources. We have another question, and this is going to be the last question that we answer on this webinar, but just want to remind people that you can email IWitnessSilwan@proton.me for any questions that weren't answered, or any remaining questions that you still have. But the last question where I'm going to also direct to the Eyewitness Silwan team is from Ray Atlas, who says, I'm an artist already engaged in a project of humanitarian portraiture depicting displaced Palestinians. Is it more meaningful to contribute my own original work as an expression of a growing movement, or reproductions of the work of Palestinian artists to uplift that visual work specifically?
I can take this one too. I would say that it doesn't need to be either or, you know? I think that uh, if you have capacity to not only share this work that you're already engaged in, but also, reproduce the murals or contribute to the Eyewitness SON project in some other way, I think that that would be great. I think also there's ways of adapting projects that we might already be engaged in related to creating original artwork to the project. For example, I was talking to a photographer a couple weeks ago who, has also, been doing Palestinian portraiture of Palestinians and was thinking about just taking out the eyes, as a way of responding to or incorporating the eye motif. So I think yeah, that you can totally do both and also think about ways to take the work that you're already doing and relate it to the project.
Thank you so much, Ray, for walking us through that and answering some of those questions. Um, we are unfortunately out of time for questions, but you can still express interest, get involved, ask the questions that you have by emailing IWitnessSilwan, all capital, for each word. So capital I and W and capital S. So eyewitnesssilwan@proton.me. So you can ask your questions there. You can express interest, get involved. You can find resources at bit.ly/look Palestinians in the eyes. And I want to end by just, reiterating the moral obligation that each of us has to disrupt the systems that are enabling Israel's crimes in Jerusalem, in Silwan, in all of Palestine, and how this moment demands more from all of us. And that the speakers today here didn't just share insights, they handed us tools. And the question for us is what we are going to do with these tools, right? Are we going to just say thank you to the speakers from Silwan, to the speakers from Jerusalem, to the speakers from Palestine, from Gaza, to the people who are there struggling to continue to remain on their land, right? Are we going to just tell them thank you, or are we going to make their words count through our actions, right? And I hope that everybody here is going to make their words count through their actions. So before you click leave this meeting, commit to continue fighting in whatever way we can. This moment is crucial. The bombs are not going to stop when this webinar ends. The bulldozers are not going to pause when we pat ourselves on the back for showing up. Every second we delay is another home stolen, another child imprisoned, another history erased. So we've handed you here today a tool of many to confront Zionism, to confront this displacement and this injustice. It's up to you now to use it, to organize, to protest, to boycott, to create this art, to use it. And so you can and really use this to move. So from the river to the sea is not just a dream. It's not just someday, but it's something that's going to happen through our relentless struggle. So now let's get to work. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Violette. I'm a member of the Palestinian Youth Movement. It's an honor to be here with y'all, to be a part of these amazing speakers, and hopefully see y'all next time.